Welcome back to another episode of the Almost Local podcast. I'm Maria, your host, and today, as usual, I'm podcasting from Auckland, New Zealand. There is a moment many of us experience after moving abroad that's really hard to explain. You finally settle into a routine, you learn the roads, the supermarket, the small talk, maybe even start feeling a little more confident in your new life. But then something happens. You go back home for a visit. Or someone visits you. Or maybe you suddenly realize you're not longer exactly the same person who first arrived. And you start wondering, where do I actually belong now? Today's episode is a really honest conversation about that in-between feeling. I'm joined by Heike, originally from Germany, who has now been living in New Zealand for 13 years. Together, we talk about culture shock, identity, homesickness, belonging, motherhood abroad, language, friendships, and how living in another country slowly changes the way you see yourself. One thing I especially loved from our conversation is how Heike describes the difference between missing home and eventually choosing here. And I think many of us navigating life abroad will deeply relate to that. So wherever you are listening from today, whether you are newly arrived somewhere, questioning where home is, or simply trying to build a life between cultures, I hope this episode makes you feel a little less alone. Let's dive in. Welcome, Heike. Thank you for being here today with me for another episode of the Almost Local podcast. So I'm happy to be joined by Heike, who is from Germany. We are in Auckland, New Zealand, and Heike, she has been navigating life abroad in New Zealand for 13 years. So she moved here in August 13 years ago with her husband and son, right?
Yes.
So we are going to be talking a bit about the experience of living abroad and the challenges, the ups and downs, and a bit of the culture shock. Thank you for being here, Heike. Thank you for sharing your story and your experience of building a home away from home. I would love to start by asking you and talking a bit about how living abroad changes us and the way how we see ourselves. So do you feel like living in New Zealand has changed you in any way, either personally or professionally?
So thank you, Maria, for having me today. Yeah,
Thank you.
it's quite special to speak about our journey. And yeah, as you said, we moved to New Zealand almost 13 years ago. And about the change, I mean, I think you naturally change if you, I don't know, in 13 years, but definitely living abroad brings some different challenges, adapting to a new country, to a new lifestyle. And yeah, we had been here before to travel around and fell in love with the country. And you have your life. We had it in Germany, right? The son was 18 months. We both were working. And yeah, so my husband was an expat, and that's what brought us to New Zealand, which was a great opportunity for us. And it was for a year, so I thought, oh yeah, that's fine, we can do that.
For a year.
Yeah, and what happened to us was my husband was working, I left my professional life behind. I was a mom staying at home, looked after my son, and making sure he's adapting to the new life as well, with a new language and having fun and being a child. And yeah, and for me, it was also learning the language, the conversation, the small talks, meeting new people, exploring the country. And yeah, and definitely what has changed is my confidence and being open to new challenges. And conversations in a different language.
Yeah.
And, so.
Sure. You feel like your confidence changed for the better?
Well, at the beginning, it was quite different, right? I wasn't that confident speaking in English.
Yeah.
So, but moving forward, I would say you have to put yourself out to make great connections. And so you have to be brave and learn to be more confident in a different country and speaking a different language. It was a change.
Do you feel like you were aware of that at the moment, those first years? Do you feel like you were aware of this?
Oh,
Did you
definitely
see
not.
yourself different? No.
No, definitely not. I would say I felt more like, I don't know if it was insecure, but looking back, I can see I have done a lot to be where I am now. Yeah. I mean, friends from home, they would share that as well. Like, look what you can do, and the encouragement you get.
Yeah, it's amazing how others see us so differently from our own vision. And when you came here, when you moved, you had already seen the country for holidays, but of course, building a life is different. How about your expectations with New Zealand? Do you feel like you found what you were expecting? Something surprised you?
Yeah, our expectations. I think I didn't have like expectations, right? As I have been here before, I could already tell what I enjoy. The difference was when we arrived in New Zealand to live here, it was in winter, and that's quite different to summer in New Zealand. And I haven't expected the cold in the houses. I would say it's different to Europe, because if you go inside in Europe in winter, it's cozy. I mean, it has changed in the last 13 years since we're here, because the houses changed and so on and so on. I remember when we arrived, I woke up in the morning and I was like, it was freezing cold inside. And I stepped out in the sun. It was so lovely and so
warm. Yeah, that's a shock. It's part of the culture.
Yes, it is. Yeah, but also we still could explore the great places, and we always a lot outside and do things in nature. So even in winter, it's beautiful. Yeah, I mean, we love it, and the possibility of being outside at the ocean, or it doesn't matter if it's summer or winter. It's always beautiful.
And what surprised you the most of New Zealand? I think you were saying something about how the culture is also something reflected at schools. Like,
yes,
that was interesting, because for me, the school community was one of the things that, well, I came here with the kids, they were 3 and 5. And that is something I loved New Zealand, the possibility of being inside of the school, just like you can come and go, this freedom.
The involvement.
That's something that I'm so happy we came with the kids so little, so lucky to be in an environment where kids. And that is something that I think you were saying, like, it surprised you, like how it reflects the culture.
Yes. Oh, that's right. Yes. So, I mean, it started in preschool and then going forward when Ben started school. So one thing that really surprised me at school, that every year the classroom and the class changes, including the teachers, right? At the beginning, it was a big surprise. Going forward, I thought, oh, actually, it totally makes sense. And it's so lovely that they meet all the new kids, the new teacher, and that reflects in the culture of the Kiwis, right? Because they open, everyone is included. Yeah, and even as families, as you said, you can be a parent helper. And so that makes it quite special to be involved, even at the school days, seeing your kids growing up, what they do. And so that was great. I mean, it's completely different to us, how I grew up.
Exactly. See it for me.
But reflecting on that, it's great for the kids. And
definitely, it's one of the things that I fell in love with that at the beginning. But of course, it was a surprise, because you don't know that until.
I love hearing that you fall in love with it. For me, it was a bit interesting, because the
yes, it
challenge
was.
the challenge was to see the changes with that, right? Because I don't know, they might have built friendship and then
It was like,
Mm.
oh, after building this, it was hard on our daughter. She was year one, and she made her best friends, learn English from scratch. And
we still live close to our primary school, and it's quite lovely if you pass it, and even our son and seeing the teachers, and they.
what about things that changed for you over the years since you moved? Like, what things, like, you've been here for 13 years. You've been through different phases, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it has changed. I think my awareness, like how to live in a different country and what it brings with, and live with it day by day, definitely is something that has changed. So at the beginning, I was excited moving to a different country, even it was hard to leave the family and friends behind, right? But there is this change nowadays with the, I don't know if I can say it, but with the homesickness, that's a big change. I would say has changed to better because I can.
Okay, it was at the beginning, it was harder. You were missing home more than.
Yes, how I deal with that, maybe.
Yeah.
And if I don't know, go back home to Germany, you have this feeling of being home straight away. And saying goodbye was harder than it's now, because I know I'm excited coming back and being in this great place, having friends here and have my routine, what I do when I come back, to set it back in. And that definitely has changed, more positive about it. Yeah, I would say. And another change is my professional life, which nowadays I'm okay with. But when I moved here first, it was a bit different because I worked in the finance sector and I could get back into, which was okay because I was happy to stay at home as well. But I never thought it would be like that in the first few years for me. But now I'm fine.
Did you change your professional field, or you started working in travel as well, right?
So, the background is still the same, definitely. And yeah, I think it's openness that is important, that I'm more aware of. Things change.
Like, we are more aware of things.
Yeah.
And it's interesting what you were also saying about when you go back home and you see your parents or friends or family, and you can see how time passes in a more.
Oh, yes. You can see it straight away.
It's straight away. Yeah. Well, let's talk about belonging and fitting in. We always say, of course, you connecting with the question what we were talking before about, you feel more now, more in peace of coming back from, you miss home less, or the feeling changed. And now you go back to Germany and you're excited to come back to New Zealand. Do you feel like you belong in New Zealand, or it's more like you fit in? And if that helped to settle and to miss home less.
So I definitely have more feeling of belonging now than it used to be. It is connected to the community you are with, right? So, for example, if we have, I don't know, something on as a school community and you're organizing things together and you having these catch-ups, and then it's a really like, oh, we belong here, we have our little community, we have our friends. And then there are days when it might feel a bit more fitting in, but I'm not sure if fitting in is the right saying. It's more like if you have a normal day and you're coming back home, and then sometimes you just miss the things that are quite sitting deep inside you, which is your family, or, and I think this is sometimes where I wish something would be different to feel more belonging.
Yeah.
Saying that, it's hard to explain, to be honest.
Because I suppose these are not questions that someone who grew up here, they're asking themselves, right?
But I know the way around now, and yeah, so it's definitely has changed a lot. And even with a family, right? If you have kids, you automatically have a lot of things on, and you meet new people and have a different perspective on belonging.
Well, thank you, Heike, for sharing. Of course, we have a lot in common, right? Just because we live in other countries. It's just, I suppose, for people who listen to the podcast, it's just like they can relate to what you're saying. What would you say for someone, if you're with someone who is exploring the idea of starting a new life in a new country? What would be your suggestions or recommendations?
So I definitely would recommend to not compare what you used to have. Is that right?
Yeah.
Because you're arriving in a new country, and it's really important, even if it's hard, to be open. I think you are open in doing it already, but sometimes inside of yourself, you start maybe comparing, or doing things that would be different, and that might hold you back a little bit from opportunities you would receive. I think this is definitely something, and
with trust your No, definitely, I agree. It's something we fall easily to compare. In my country, this is like this, and the good and the bad.
And also, don't try too hard. Sometimes we push too much that it's not natural anymore, right?
Yes, it's something that takes time.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, overall, if you have the opportunity, it's great. Even if you maybe can't see it straight away, but you always can look back and see it as a great opportunity. And I mean, even for your wider family, right? They can come and visit us.
The great experience. I've been telling my mom who was here, you never thought you would come to Auckland so much in your life, did you?
Yeah.
You're stepping out of your comfort zone and making your family or friends step out of their comfort zones to come in here.
Yes, yeah. And you meet great people and your community. And
thank you so much for sharing your vision on living abroad. I'm sure that a lot of people would relate. And also it's nice to hear that we are not alone in feeling that some things are working. Or
that's the great thing about the almost local, right? Hearing about almost local, it's great that you can connect with other people going through the same thing.
Almost Local started because I felt and I needed to talk about what's happening in our lives and have a laugh on the go. So thank you, Heike. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Maria.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. What stayed with me most after this conversation with Heike is the idea that living abroad isn't really about fully arriving. It's about learning how to hold different parts of yourself at the same time. The version of you connected to home, the version of you adapting somewhere new, the people you miss, and the life you're slowly building. I also loved something Heike said during our conversation, that over time, she stopped searching for a replacement version of home and instead started creating a new version of it. And maybe that's what so many of us living abroad are doing, slowly and imperfectly, building belonging in places that once felt unfamiliar. If today's episode resonated with you, I'd love for you to share it with someone else navigating life abroad. And if you're in Auckland, our Almost Local monthly gatherings continue throughout the year. Small intentional spaces to pause, reflect, and connect while exploring these experiences together in person. You can find all the details in the show notes. Thank you again for being here, and wherever in the world you're listening from today, I hope you remember that you're not the only one figuring out life in between. See you in the next episode. And now I'm off to my second morning coffee.